Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we're talking about finding help and hope in a time of crisis with Katie Curtis and Justin Rieg from the Foundation to Crisis Services. It's hard to talk to a stranger to get help with child welfare, mental health, or thoughts of suicide, and it can be even harder to pick up the phone and reach out for help. Our guests are going to talk about how they meet this challenge with compassion. Let's welcome Katie and Justin. Thank you for joining us. Katie, why don't you start out and tell us a little bit about Foundation 2?
Hi, so I'm Katie Curtis, and I'm the Chief Development Officer at Foundation to Crisis Services, which means I'm responsible for all fundraising and marketing for the organization, and certainly sharing our story and how we can support our community. Our organization has been around for approaching 55 years, and really what we want to do in the community is be a gap-filling service first crisis services. So we want to respond to people when they are experiencing a crisis and connect them with the really important other community network of organizations that we have in the area. So we provide our services in kind of two ways, one through children and family services and also through crisis services. So on the children and family services end, we have an emergency youth shelter, as well as a program that supports young adults who've aged out of the Iowa foster care system. Our crisis services portion is really probably what we're better known for, and that includes our law enforcement liaison program, which sends mental health counselors into the community with law enforcement officers to address mental health related police calls. We also have a mobile crisis outreach program, which dispatches counselors out into the community. So that can be a workplace, a school, a home, wherever a crisis might be occurring is a place where we can go provide that service. We dispatch with 2 counselors at a time to support, that person and maybe their caretaker as well, with other services that might be better long-term supports. And then we have our crisis center, and our crisis center is crisis phone, chat, and text services. And Justin would be a great person to talk about that.
All right, Justin, introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter. My name is Justin Rieg. I'm the program manager for the Foundation 2 Crisis Center. And like Katie said, we oversee the incoming phone, text, and chat options that we have available to Iowans and people everywhere to connect with us when they're going through crisis, experiencing just overwhelming thoughts, experiencing suicidal ideation, or anything in between. We deal with substance use, problem gambling, a variety of mental health issues, and sometimes multiple things affecting people all at once. People contact us because they're concerned about, say, a loved one or a coworker or a friend who they just don't know how to address that issue. So we provide guidance, we provide crisis counseling, we can connect people with their local resources, including mobile crisis outreach, as Katie mentioned, and some other services to really just help people get through a really difficult time in their life.
Hey, Justin, what's it like? I mean, it's got to be tough for people to pick up the phone and dial for help. And it's got to be tough for professionals that have never met a person to be handed such a powerful responsibility. What has it been like over the last couple of years with COVID and everything else in terms of building relationships with customers when they contact your organization?
Absolutely. And that's such an important part of what we do and what we train our counselors to do, is to build that initial rapport with people, because it can take a lot of courage to pick up the phone. Like you said, when you're feeling isolated and you don't know who to talk to, you feel like you're alone or you don't know like the next steps. That takes a lot of courage to even make that call. We acknowledge that and we appreciate that people reach out to us for that help. We provide a lot of training to our counselors on connecting with people, building that trust, and being a non-judgmental listening ear. That's really what we're here to do. We're here to meet people where they're at. So regardless of what's going on in your life, whether you feel like something is going wrong or you've done something wrong, or you just need somebody to talk to listen to what's going on, that's what we're here to do. And we can provide just as much help as you need, or sometimes we can just be here to listen, just for you to get something off of your mind that's just been feeling really overwhelming, that's just giving racing thoughts, just kind of bring people back to a place where they feel emotionally safe and can kind of either go on with their day, or if we need a more significant plan of what to do moving forward to give that person some help, we can do that as well.
Now, we hear constantly in the news that only a fraction of people that need mental health care get it, that only a very small percentage are able to access services. What's your spin on that to somebody that may be watching the show and feeling some sense of futility if they've tried to go through government agencies and things like that?
And that's a fair concern, right? We hear that sometimes that people are not, they don't know where to go, or they've been put on a waiting list. And what I love about what we're able to provide is that we can help fill that gap to a degree, right? We are available 24/7, 365, nights, weekends, holidays. If you're maybe waiting to get into a therapist, or you're in between therapy sessions, but it's the middle of the night or the middle of the day, but you can't get in to see somebody, we're here to talk to you about that. We have mobile crisis outreach options, not just within our own agency, within Foundation 2. We have several agency partners across the state as well that we can connect people with to have those counselors come out in person and talk with them if needed. Other agencies provide some immediate telehealth options, and we have some really great options for that too.
Well, we're going to take a short break and then we'll continue our conversation with Katie and Justin. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening. Our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking with Katie and Justin from Foundation 2 Crisis Services. Let's take a look at some of the important services they provide and what they cost. You know, what your responsibility is if you connect with them. Katie, let's start with you.
So thank you for asking that. I think it's really important to mention that our crisis services are free. So Justin spoke to, we are always available, but in addition to that, there's no cost to the person calling. And that's really important because a lot of times people avoid seeking mental health care because it is cost prohibitive in some cases. So we are not concerned about your health insurance. We're not concerned if you have health insurance. We're not concerned about your age if you call. What we want is to connect with you to make sure you feel like you have a support, and so that you can have some relief. And what's important to note too is a lot of times people are calling because of financial stress. So the last thing that we want to do is have someone call the line, bill them, and then continue to be more burdensome to the financial stress that they might be experiencing in the first place.
Yeah, Justin, for a lot of people, it's not just often one problem. One problem leads to another and another and another, and people feel like it's an avalanche of problems falling on their shoulders. How do you help people sort of come to grips with that idea when they make first contact? What can someone expect from you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question, Peter. So that's part of the overwhelming feeling, right? Because it's very seldom just one issue, and sometimes it is, but it's so complex that you don't know how to handle that. COVID was during the main part of the pandemic, great example of that, right? We all shared this burden of this pandemic, and then people had financial issues, job issues, family issues, people were isolated, all of that combined. How do we sift through that? And what we really do is try and figure out what's going on in a person's certain day, what led them to call or contact us that day, and go from there. Because a lot of times there's one or two things maybe on the top of somebody's mind that is just really creating this overflow of everything else. We're going to try and sift through that and talk through that more so that we can help try and bring somebody back to an emotionally safe place, and then kind of make a plan going forward. How are we going to go forward from here in a positive way? The ability to talk through things that are stressing people out, or talk through a recent trauma, or talk through maybe suicidal thoughts. The effect of that can be profound in ways that people don't realize until they call. And by the end of that conversation, just being able to get that off of their chest and talk through these thoughts, these feelings, these stressors can be tremendously helpful for people. And by the end of that call, we have a lot of people say, thank you so much just for listening and for me being able to talk through this.
You know, it's already been said that you don't charge anything, so that people don't get that sort of institutional, do you have insurance, who's your provider, you know, what's your income, which is not helpful when somebody is in the middle of a crisis. But what kind of questions do you ask? I mean, you know, where does a person start when you, I mean, is it all a feel-good session, or are there some hard questions that a person has to be ready to contend with?
Yeah, so we do ask some questions to try and first understand what made the person decide to call, right? We started very open. We want to just know, you know, what's going on today? What made you decide to call us? And we're glad you did call, by the way. You can, during the course of the conversation or during a chat or text session, expect us to ask about suicidal thoughts. That is something, suicide prevention is a large part of what Foundation does as well. And so we are going to ask, hey, have you been experiencing any thoughts of suicide today or recently? And if that is a topic, and if that's a part of the discussion, then we'll move forward through that there and try and assess and make sure people are safe in the moment. That is really important to us, right? Sometimes people do contact us and it is a state of emergency, and we're gonna help you at that point. We're gonna really try and make sure people are safe. Same with if you call about a loved one and it's an emergent situation, we're gonna really triage that and try and help you or your loved one to the best of our ability. Otherwise,
oh, I'm sorry. My obvious question is, how confidential is this? Because it's scary to connect with a stranger. I mean, is this something that the conversations are taped? Do they have to give you their name and contact info, or is there some safe zone there for people to interact without having to disclose all those things?
absolutely. So the calls and contacts are confidential. Absolutely. We often ask what someone's name is just in terms of trying to build rapport with people. You don't have to share your name. You don't have to share where you live, any of that information. We may ask it to try and better understand kind of what's going on, to build that rapport, maybe to connect you with local services you may not have known about, or at least to offer those to you so you know in the future, here's what other options I have. But none of that stuff is mandated. It is as open or as closed as a conversation as someone wants it to be.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll explore that sort of range of emotions, fears, the stigma, and hope that you can experience when you reach out for help. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected. Every second, 127 new devices connect to the internet. You can feel it happening, our digital world expanding with every breath. We're entering a whole new era of connectivity, and MediaCom will be ready to power it with one of the nation's first 10G platforms. We'll be bringing you more speed, more capacity, more security, and the power to do more than you ever dreamed possible.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're with Katie and Justin, and we're learning how and why talking to a professional you've never met can be life-changing in the face of a crisis. Yet, Katie, starting with you, when you pick up the phone and you're thinking, why, how can this work? I mean, what says this works? Well, we know that there are a lot of things that have happened in the last 30 years. We know there's been some breakdown in families and community-based services, and we know you fill those gaps. But we also know that there are many, many more resources now available for people that if someone can help them connect with them, can really help avert a disaster. So, how do you just contextualize this idea that making this phone call to a stranger can really work?
So I think of an example that just happened a month or so ago. It was 7 a.m. and my phone rang, and it was somebody I'd not heard from for a long time. And I thought to myself, they accidentally called me, or they know what I do professionally, and there's an issue, just based on the time of day that they called. And when I answered my phone, I said, "Hey, how are you?" Obviously, it was an unexpected phone call. And right away, they said, "I'm very concerned about this family member. We think they are suicidal. What do I do?" And so I think people do turn to their family members when there's a crisis or something going on, or family members can recognize that. But so often those people are then kind of stuck in the mud. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I want to help. I want to do something, but I don't know what to do." And so I get a lot of phone calls or emails from business professionals that say something similar. "I'm worried about so-and-so. What do I do?" Or "I'm really struggling with my own mental health, but I'm not sure where to turn." And it's so great that I can say, "Hey, here's this local crisis line. They know these local resources. And not only can they help you maybe identify what's next for you as far as, addressing your own mental health concerns, but they can right here and right now help de-escalate that situation and really offer some support." And then I don't have to, not that I don't care about their story, but then they don't have to divulge everything that maybe they don't want to me. I can say, "This is a safe, confidential space. It's available all of the time. I can call that line with you. I can provide the numbers. I can send the links, and we can do this together." Or you have the option to really, kind of keep this private and with you and take that next step. So in that situation, I provided the person on the phone with the mobile crisis outreach information, as well as the crisis line, and said, "Hey, I'm happy to come back and talk to you more about this. And now you have a couple of resources and places to start." And so it's a great, maybe crutch isn't an appropriate word, but when we're not sure what to do, is a great place to turn it over to the experts, because our crisis counselors are answering literally tens of thousands of calls a year. They are ready and prepared and trained well to answer those calls. And we want them to use their expertise to connect people with crisis support.
Wow, that's excellent. Justin, do you have anything to add?
Katie answered that excellently. All I can say on top of that is that part of being in crisis sometimes is feeling like nothing will change, and that things are so much worse, feel so much worse at that time than maybe before or after that you would realize. And so being able to talk through that, I would say, especially when you're experiencing people that are experiencing suicidal thoughts, to talk about that can literally be life-saving and life-changing. Because when we start to talk about that, it gets that shame, it gets that stigma off of that. We're able to talk through the issues, because sometimes when people are feeling that low, they feel bad about having those thoughts. And then if you don't talk to anybody about that and you just hold that in yourself, those thoughts can get worse. And we can get to a place where maybe we're really not safe. And so being able to talk about that with a professional that knows how to talk about that and can make you feel comfortable talking about those difficulties and those thoughts can be really powerful for people.
No, I think importantly, what about parents when they're dealing with issues with children, sort of, that third-party support system that they need, or even children that might feel like talking to their parents or teachers is not the action that's good for them? Can you talk to children when they call in?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Katie.
I think that's a great opportunity to talk about 988. So 988 is the rebranding of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that is a call or text option. So what is wonderful, any opportunity I have where I'm around students, I love to say, hey, by the way, get out your phone, put 988 in. You can call or text this at any time. I know in Iowa, we have that number on the back of a lot of school badges now. So they're trying to really equip students with that number. But that text option provides a little bit of privacy to students, which can be important because they might not be ready to tell their parent about what the circumstances that maybe they're struggling with. But if they can talk to a trained counselor at any time by text message, that's really a great resource for them. Certainly, we hope that kids feel comfortable to speak with their parents about the concerns that they might be experiencing or crisis they might be experiencing. But if they're not there yet, we certainly want them to continue to access support regardless of the situation.
Is there any topic, Justin, that a parent or a child cannot talk about on your helpline?
That's a good question. There's nothing that they can't talk about. No, we're willing to talk with people about anything that's really troubling them. We do receive calls from children and youth, and I would encourage anyone who is struggling to be able to reach out to us, whether they're an adult or a child.
Great points. Now we're going to take a short break, and we're going to invite Katie and Justin to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At MediaCom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Today on Surviving Bad, we're talking about finding help and hope in a time of crisis and how to deal with the range of emotions, fears, stigma, and hopes that you can experience when you reach out for help. Let's see what insights, advice, and ideas Katie and Justin have to share with us today. Katie, let's start with you.
I think it's just really important for people to understand that thoughts of suicide are actually pretty common. So 1 in 20 people will have thoughts of suicide. And I try to remind people that when I'm in a large room, I say, look around, 1 in 20, how many of us are in here? Be cognizant of that as we interact with people. And what I mean by that is, if you notice that somebody is not doing well or maybe not themselves, take a minute and stop and say, Peter, are you okay? I noticed that you seem more lethargic than usual, or I noticed that you're kind of short-tempered today. Is something going on? Any opportunity we have to stop and acknowledge what somebody might be experiencing is such a great opportunity to engage with their story and maybe something else going on in their life. And to add to that, I would also say, ask directly about suicide if you're concerned about suicide. So I always tell people we want to ask directly and non-judgmentally. So are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? We want to avoid terms like, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Because somebody might be thinking about self-harm and not thinking about suicide, or vice versa. So just really genuinely engaging with people is just a great place to start when you're kind of getting introduced to the mental health field and crisis services.
Justin?
Absolutely. And to go off what Katie said, I think that's one of the biggest myths out there about suicide prevention, is that asking about suicide could maybe put that idea in somebody's head and make them do it. I think that's why a lot of people historically have not felt comfortable asking somebody about that. It is the opposite. It is an important thing to ask someone about suicide. You are not going to put the idea in their head, but if they are having those thoughts, again, being able to start that conversation and move forward to talk more about that and where we need to go can be a critical, potentially life-saving event for that person. The other thing I would say is that we do not want anyone to feel like they are truly alone in a crisis in their life, in that moment where you feel nobody cares and you have nobody to talk to. If you're feeling that way, it's real to you in that moment. And I'm here to tell anybody that ever experiences that you are not alone. We are here to listen and to talk to you. You will talk with somebody that legitimately cares. That's why our counselors do this work. And I'm so proud to say that they truly care about people. And so you're going to talk to somebody that actually cares and wants to help. Doesn't mean we can fix everything, but we can hear what's going on. We can be a trusted support for you. And we hope to come away and have you come away from that conversation or that contact with a little more hope and a little more bright light than what you had going into that contact.
You know, it's a fascinating relationship now when we talk about this increase in suicide ideation, and in so many instances, the high risk behaviors that people engage in, whether it's substance use disorder or other mental health challenges, you know, there are now sort of, adverse high risk behavior sort of algebra that says, you know, if you engage in more than 1, 2, or 3 of these things, it can become extremely dangerous and unsettling. And many people have correlated those sort of pathways with the increase in suicide ideation and feelings of abject hopelessness. Is this a trend you think we can really address and change the course of to build healthier communities, healthier people, and help them solve some of these problems?
I think we have some work to overcome when I think about the pandemic and some of the social connectedness that was lost in the last several years. But I also see people reprioritizing that in their own lives of, you know, what am I going to do to have meaningful relationships? And I also am optimistic that, you know, people are really treating people with genuine care. And I'm hopeful that we will continue to destigmatize mental health. And as a result, people will feel comfortable to share what they're experiencing. And hopefully that will lead to reduced suicide rates.
So if I read you correctly, Justin, for people feeling alone, facing some of these problems, for a chance to meet someone and get some compassion in a private setting, even anonymous if need be, Foundation 2 Crisis Services is a great option.
Absolutely, Peter. It is.
Well, I thank you both so much for joining us today. Thank you for the work you do, and I wish you Godspeed in solving some of these problems and helping our communities be healthier. Thank you all for watching us today, and check out our website at healthyiowa.org. Keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.